What are some common forms of sexism that men face? Part 2. Divorce settlements. Typically, men are the ones to lose child custody, their houses, and pay alimony checks. It's extremely one-sided in favor of women. Plus, 40% of domestic abuse victims are men, and yet compared to the hundreds of women's abuse shelters in America, there are only a few men's shelters, if any. And when anyone tries to make one, it gets laughed at and ignored, and in some cases, those who want to build one get bullied out of it. One case of which caused a man to commit suicide. Then there's the recent experimental drug for men, in which testing was stopped. Media claimed it was because men couldn't handle menstrual symptoms. It turns out it was because this drug was making men sterile, but that was completely ignored and glossed over. Back when there was a draft, not that long ago, men were forced to go to war and potentially die. In USA, that could still happen. Men have to sign up to attain their place in society. Women don't, though they were considering making women do so too recently. Are you babysitting today? No, I'm not. I'm never babysitting. I'm being a father to the daughter I've wanted since I was a child myself. I'm taking care of the most important person in my life. I'm not a babysitter. Seriously, that question infuriates me more than any other. The implication that fathers are somehow, or worse should be, absent from parenting is horrible and problematic for both genders. Say, no, I am her father. Completely deadpan with no inflection or attitude. I'm a female, but I notice they are expected to be the ones to hit on the girl and make all the moves. It's stupid. That's why I make all the first moves. I do this too, and wow, it does help. The smiles I get from something as simple as, if you ever decide we should get a pizza and beer, I'm down, really brings home how tough the pressure is. If a man and a woman have intoxicated sex, it is the man who failed to get the consent of the woman, and so therefore he raped her. While that's a big misconception, the other side of this problem is the refusal to hold women accountable for their actions. A drunk woman can't be expected to get consent, she's drunk. But a drunk man, on the other hand. I took my 4-year-old daughter to a movie a couple of weeks back. There was a lady that was kind of following a little ways behind. I figured, okay, she probably just bought tickets to the same movie. When we left the movie, she was still following, except this time on the phone. As we were walking towards my car, she ran up in front of us and stopped us, saying some not awesome things about me being a pedo and that the police were on their way. Long story short, cops showed up, saw what was really going on, and reprimanded the woman pretty severely. The bad thing about this is it was the first time after my wife had left me that I had become comfortable taking my daughter out by myself, and now I'm still fairly hesitant about taking her out. I'm getting better though. It's a subtle form of sexism, but women are constantly surprised when men can cook, clean, iron, and dress nicely without assistance. Why wouldn't I be able to take care of myself? Low-key, I like this. Women are usually mad impressed when I roll out a 10-layer chocolate cake. Suicide. You want to raise awareness for suicide and mental illness? Yeah, fill your boots. Because it gets on my nerves when it's all directed towards the struggles women have regarding mental health and suicidal ideation. But the male gender is chastised for anything regarding suicide or mental health. The notion of a man to be a strong and mentally powerful individual is a crock of lies. It doesn't define a man. How he deals with it is how it defines him. If you haven't already, you should pay close attention to the antidepressant and other mental health medication commercials. They are almost always geared towards women, not men. I once got told, "You can't teach, you're male. You'll be harsh. No one likes male teachers." I went home early that day and sat on my couch drinking liquor going, do they like me? I don't get people like this. All my favorite teachers were male because they weren't harsh. In my own case, being trusted less than everyone else as a minority of guys in a primarily female workplace simply due to our gender. It has taken years of me having to aggressively call people out about it in order to get treated fairly. I know this thread is old now, but that comment resonated with me. I work in a building of about 75 women and maybe 5 men, and I'm the only man in my department, and my female boss has no idea how to deal with me. She's been my boss for 2 years and she's visibly nervous around me to this day. I frequently get left out of meetings, group communications and projects because she mostly just seems to want to forget I'm there. And this is in a small department of only 5 people. Fortunately, I don't seem to have this issue with most co-workers, but good grief, my boss sets the tone for the entire department. Can't believe this hasn't been mentioned, but is the most flat-out one, in my opinion. Being told at a club or bar, women getting free, men pay $20 cover. Who do you think is going to buy the majority of the drinks when we're there? I'm also with my wife, so I'm not paying to meet other girls. Infuriates me. They do this because they want more girls to go to their bar. More girls in the bar means more guys paying the cover fee means more money for them. I think this is a case where you need to vote with your wallet. I absolutely refuse to patronize any establishment with such policies. If enough men refused to pay these places, they would implement a more equitable pricing structure. Mansplaining, manspreading, and all that other BuzzFeed trash. I mean, I'm not even discussing if these are things, but if I started calling nagging women nagging or something, there would be such outrage. Or how about the articles around Olympics? Which athletes had the biggest bulges in their swimsuits? And the very same news outlet released an article about how men should stop objectifying women a day later. Not long ago, there was a particular Wonder Woman comic with a guest writer. In it, WW uses her lasso of truth to make a bad guy spill the beans. Afterwards, she mentions that the lasso can't prevent mansplaining. Another female character says, "I know what will," and seriously socks the dude in the face. For the uninitiated, the lasso of truth literally makes people tell the truth. Undeniable truth, no questions asked. But no, the writer had to squeeze that little mansplaining or violence against men bit in there. Imagine if the roles were reversed. The fact that it's commonplace to use the trope of her husband's stupid as comedy. A look at near every single sitcom ever. Look how many stupid joke memes get shared on your Facebook along these lines. Or the video where a woman denies her husband sex for an entire week with different excuses, even to one point make fun of his sexual performance. That video is seen as, "Oh, that's so funny," when it really borders on spousal abuse. Primetime TV sitcom, idiot husband with hotter than appropriate wife. Commercials, idiot husband whose family makes fun of him for his incompetence. When men's issues are brought up, people view this as anti-women and distracting from the real issues. I never understood this. When men try to advocate for themselves, but then they get attacked for advocating for themselves. Where is the logic here? Pro-women's issues group? How progressive. Pro-men's issues group? What a bunch of sexist pigs. Things like this happen too, where a men's issues speaker comes to a university and protesters pulled the fire alarm and shouted at attendees. Body shaming. It's terrible or shallow for a guy to not accept a woman with some extra weight or that is showing signs of aging. It's perfectly acceptable to reject a guy because he doesn't have a full head of hair or is overweight or is short. You can always lose weight or get hair plugs. You can't grow. A crowd of people will stand around and watch a guy get beat the life out of by a woman. But the second he hits her back, everybody jumps in. Forget that. If a girl hits me, it's on. Gender equality. I was beaten up by 3 drunk women on a pier who pulled on my hair so hard that about half of it fell out the following morning. When I tell people this story, people are often sort of amused at the thought of a man getting beaten up by 3 women. But if you hit them back in self-defense, most likely a bunch of white knights would run up and jump you as well. I, for one, have noticed that sometimes when a young female says something rude or defiant, etc. to a young male, she's standing up for herself. And when a male does the same to a female, it's harassment or abuse. Only in specific cases though, not saying it's like this all the time. In my mind, I'd have to know the party who initiated the hostile exchange to decide fairly. If a person, boy or girl, makes unsolicited rude comments, it's harassment. If a person, boy or girl, responds in kind, they would usually be considered as standing up for themselves. To treat them differently would be a double standard. I'm a teacher, so I spend a lot of time thinking about correcting these kinds of behaviors fairly. War, suicide, workplace dangers, financial pressure, criminal persecution, incarceration, etc. Honestly, it's shocking when people ask the question, but I guess it's because it's so normal we don't even notice most days. Sexism against women is noteworthy. Against men, it's just life. Try psychiatric disorders. Have fun trying to get people to understand your depression when every single facet of society expects men to hide it. You just gotta man up. Higher hiring bars in the IT industry. The companies try to maintain a 50-50 mix of employees from a graduating class what's 80% male in India, hence hiring women with a lower skill level than men. Also, more assistants. There are a lot of programs for women who took a few years off to get back into the workforce, not for men. Once you join, special women's groups and meetings with the leadership, women's only conferences, etc. In the programming world, it's the same. My dad's company recently hired an intern they had for 6-ish months. He has 30 plus years of programming and is one level higher than her, being much better with programming.